Welcome into WagerTalk TV. I am Drew Martin, joined by Robbie Vino of WagerTalk.com. And guys, we're talking SEC West action, Saturday college football here. We're seeing Texas A&M go on the road to Oxford, Mississippi, Robbie, and take on the Ole Miss Rebels. We're seeing 56 being the total now. We've seen some over money from the opener. Also, Texas A&M taking some money, Robbie, minus 2.5 as the road favorite. What do you like in Oxford, Mississippi on Saturday?
Well, I think you're supposed to see over money, Drew. I mean, when a Mississippi game opens at 53.5, it really doesn't take a lot of thinking. Just go to the window, play over 53.5, and then go back and review the game. And if you have to come back the other way, do so. But we don't see games where Ole Miss is involved in this totals range whatsoever. And they have been, there's a lot of reasons for it. Number one, I think there's a lot of affection for the Texas A&M defense at this point in time, which I'll attempt to pick apart during this video. And the Ole Miss injury situation, especially the cluster injury at wide receiver the last 3 weeks, certainly has driven their offensive point production down a little bit. 31, 31, and 27 points scored by Ole Miss the last 3 weeks without Braylon Sanders, without Jonathan Mingo, last week without Dontario Drummond. However, without all three of those guys last week, Lane Kiffin just keep going into the well and pulling out players. Last week, it's John Rhys Plumlee, ex-quarterback, who does damage as a starting wide receiver, and Denise Jackson, who does damage as a starting wide receiver. So you got two guys that came up and played big last week against Liberty, got the job done. Remember during this 3-game string too, Drew, that while the receivers have been hurt, Matt Corral has played banged up as well, trying to heal each and every week from, I think, the 20-something carries that he had at a game 3 weeks ago. I think he's a little bit better health-wise this week. But the Ole Miss offense really has not suffered. If I just go through some numbers here real quick, total offense-wise, last 3 games, 470 yards, 464 yards, 466 yards, all the while with Lane Kiffin telling everybody who will listen that Matt Corral is doing this with not a lot around him. They also lost their best offensive guard for the season and had to replace him last week and did so in pretty good fashion. The passing game, without those 3 guys that I mentioned, they went up against LSU, Auburn, and Liberty, Auburn being the best defense of all, but Auburn, they scored 31 points against. I feel like they probably get one of those 3 back this week, and in particular, from what I'm reading, it could be either Braylon Sanders or Dontario Drummond. If they get one guy back, it'll be a pretty big boost for Ole Miss on the offensive side of the football. Defensively, they're hanging in there, but they're not a good run defense, and that's what Texas A&M does best. Texas A&M runs the football. You'll see a lot of Spiller. You'll see a lot of A-Chain running the football against this team. You don't want to put the ball in the hands of Zach Calzada. Well, I'll tell you the truth, Drew. That Alabama game looks more and more and more to be a mirage of the greatest mirages, because this guy hasn't played good football in any game prior to that or after that. He's not been good whatsoever, but they're able to run the football. They're able to get their points that way. They probably will be able to do the same here against Ole Miss in this game. Ole Miss will do everything to prevent it, stack the line of scrimmage, whatever. But A&M, pretty physical football team at this point in time on the offensive side. A&M 3-0 in their last 3 games against the spread. South Carolina played that game without their quarterback, Zeb Nolan. And in fact, Zeb Nolan was like their second or third quarterback, but he wasn't playing. Played Mizzou, a team that they ran all over. Mizzou can't stop the run. But I just want to point out that the 3 capable offenses that Texas A&M has played so far this year are Arkansas, Alabama, and Mississippi State. Capable. Ole Miss is better than 2 of those. Ole Miss's offense, injured or not, is better than Arkansas's. It's better than Mississippi State's. But in those 3 games, Texas A&M gave up 443 yards to Arkansas, 522 yards, even though they won the game against Alabama, and 438 yards against Mississippi State. To me, Mississippi puts up numbers in those range. The score gets elevated because of that. Again, I think this number was set at 53.5, too low, predicated on Ole Miss injuries, Ole Miss recent production, Texas A&M being a defensively perceived team. But the defense hasn't been that good when faced with real good offenses. So give me this game over. I wouldn't be surprised, to tell you the truth, Drew, if Ole Miss wins this game straight up. Line is low, 2.5, but I just think Ole Miss has the play calling ability. If I'm going to give a head coaching edge in this game, I'm going to give it to Lane Kiffin's play calling ability over Jimbo Fisher's kind of prehistoric play calling. If one team's going to stop the other, I would think Ole Miss has a decent chance. But I think they're going to make some yardage against this team, which has proven A&M. They've proven to not be able to stop good offenses this year. I think over 55.5, 56, still a good way to go. You probably have room up until the point of 59 because, just projecting out in my handicapping, I could see a 31-28 game, which hits 59. So as long as we're under that number, I think we're safe. Weather's going to be good. For me, A&M, Mississippi, over the total of 55.5 or 56.
Should be a fun one there. In the Grove, Oxford, Mississippi, Texas A&M, and Ole Miss is two of the better teams in the SEC West. Guys, enjoy it on Saturday. For Robbie Vino, I am Drew Martin. Remember to check out WagerTalk.com. Tuesdays is $2 Tuesday. Top handicappers, top play, discounted to just $2. Check it out, WagerTalk.com.